Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Hey Ugandans, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Dewa Kiki, the Deputy Defense Spokesperson and actually the Deputy Spokesperson for the Uganda People's Defense Forces. I was hosted on Alternative Dig Talk. I encourage all Ugandans that this is the way to go. Always watch, participate, give your views and ask questions on Alternative Dig Talk. Dig Talk, the way to go.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
It is 1 minute past 7 a.m. and of course we are still in November, the 25th day of Musenene month right here in 2021. Good morning, my name is Karohanga Edgar Matthew and it's so very cold right here in Makinde, but of course we are trying to break down having a conversation with you. Chitwaba subiza antino buli kumacha tubeerawo kubanga tubaweereza nga tunyumamu emboozi nammwe nga tubanyumiza biki ebibadde gye mutaabadde era nga tubabuulira engeri gye musobola okubanga mubimanyamu era ne bisobola okubanga bibakyusiza obulamu nga bwe bikyusiza obulamu bw'abangi, because as information continues to flow, many lives continue to be changed, because buli saawa okumanya we kutambula abantu babeera abamanyi ate wobeera omumanyi okola decisions oba osalawo ng'ova in a reality of someone who's informed at the end of the day. Mbaniriza nnyo program bagiyita The Mighty Drive ebeerako wano ku page yaffe eya The Alternative Uganda buli lunaku olwa Monday paka ku lunaku olwokutaano okuva ku ssaawa emu ez'okumakya paka ku ssaawa 3 tubeerawo wano nga tunyumyamu emboozi ne bannayuganda nga tukuleetera abantu bewetaaga okuba ng'omanya n'abalala abasobola okuba nga bakuzimba amakya g'olunaku olwaleero. So olunaku olwaleero tulina omukyala okuva mu ggwanga erya South Sudan tufulumyeko wabweru w'eggwanga. Nino tutera okufulumako ngaffe aba Alternative Dig Talk tufuluma nnyo ko ne tuleeta ku bantu abasobola okuba nga abababuulira ekigenda mu maaso eyo emitala w'amayanja. So tulina omukyala bamuyita Ajah Tabitha Chol Manyiel, ndooza lyeri erinnya lyo oba ndyogedde bulungi. Omukyala Ajah Tabitha Chol Manyiel ono nno muwandiisi wa butabo babe bayita ba authors. Omukyala Ajah agenda kuba twegattako wano n'omwami Rogers tulyaha bwe babenga banyumyamu ku mboozi nga boogera ku bintu ebyenjawulo. So omukyala Ajah Tabitha Chol Manyiel ye author, muwandiisi wa butabo, she's an author, agenda kuba twegattako for today on The Mighty Drive Show. Jukira tuteekebwamu ensimbi eyo kampuni eya Praise Property Consultants. No, Praise Property Consultants bakola ku buli kimu omuli amataka, okutunda amataka, okugula amataka, okutunda amayumba, gwe buli kimu kyoyagala okubanga okola in terms of real estate and land acquisition. Praise Property Consultants beeyunire nnyo. Bali wali ewandegeya ku katale ka KCCA level number 2 oba floor number 2 room 128 osobola okubanga obasanga wali ku ewandegeya. Enamba yaabwe eri noti 7 noti 6 emunya 7 noti 6 oba kanjidde mu luzimi oluzungu eri 0706 147 006. Waliwo yali aŋŋamba onaŋŋamba Edgar Nambozangu ya nnyo oluusi etera kuzikwata, ndooza kati musobola okuba nga mugiwulira 0706 147 006. Abo beba Praise Property Consultants bajja kubanga bakukolako wonna wo bakubira essimu babeerawo beera bajja kukwata munyumyemu ku mboozi mulabe engeri gy'osobola okwefunira akataka. Nabagamba amataka gaabwe gali ku buli luguudo olufuluma Kampala, omuli oluguudo olwa Bombo Road, omuli oluguudo lwa Masaka Road, omuli oluguudo lwa Mtyana Road olugenda paka Fort Portal waffe, the only tourism city in this country. buli luguudo olufuluma Kampala Gayaza Road nabo balinawo amataka ate amataka gawe nno tebagaseera osobola okuba nga ogafuna ate ne musobola okuba nga muteesa tomanya bayinza okukufunira kye bayita ekibanja mpole eddakiika nno ziri 5 ezakatuyitako wano ku ssaawa emu eyo kumakya kanyingireko mu mawulire agabadde gatambula mu ggwanga lya Uganda olunaku lw'eggulo poliisi yasoose nesalako wali oluguudo olwa Kampala Road bwe yafunye amawulire nti no wabaddewo kye bayise bomb threat nkyeka wadde waliwo bomu so poliisi yaswinginze in action negalawo oluguudo mangu nekola okunoonyereza okwayambye nti tewabadde bomu yonna just yabadde threat oba kutiisatiisaamu amawulire badde bafunye intelligence kiteeka yadde teri so confirmed so poliisi yagenze neswinginga in action bulungi nnyo negezaako okubanga enoonyereza era tebafunye mawulire gonna gosobola kugamba nti no oba waliwo bomu oba anything like that so not to scare you naye let's keep staying vigilant because there is a wave of terrorism that is going on the African continent, not just on Uganda alone. Bomu nyingi eziri mu kutegekebwa oba okutegebwa wali mu mawanga ag'enjawulo mu Africa juka ne mu Ethiopia bawonize nti waliyo bomu ate Ethiopia ne last year yakubibwa bomu abantu 38 bafa so olabira ddala mbuno tulina okuba nga tutambula tuli mu bwerinde nga twekuuma nga tugezaako okuba nga tulaba engeri gye tusobola okuba nga tubeera safe so stay vigilant usooka buli muntu akuli okumpi mwekengere gino emigugu gye bamala gasuulasuula awantu bannange mwalatinge poliisi mangu oba making sure omuntu omugamba bannawe omugugu ogulesse kubanga mugugu ogugwaleka yebeera bomu ate bomu emaliriza nga ekuyisiza bubi ng'omuntu ndoza nga tuvuddeko awo katugendeko ku story endala ndoza mwawulirako kye bayita the Kavera bill enema okuva ndoza mwaka nga 2011 babadde bagezangako okubaninga kye bayita okukozesa obuveera badde bagezaako okugjawo enkola y'okukozesa obuveera but over time abannayuganda balaze embuno oba simanyi oba kampuni zino tezisobola kukwatibwako ezikola buno obuveera because bagamba obuveera of course degrading the environment which is very very true because akaveera we kagenda mu ttaka ate ko tekasobola ku decomposinga nga wonalaba nti tugeze oba omuntu wagenda mu ttaka there is a way wa decomposinga in fact nabanga ettaka lisobola okureforminga because we are from dust to dust naye ekizibu ekiri ku buveera nti akaveera ko tekagenda decomposing katwala emyaka 10 okuba nga kadecomposing egyo emyaka giba mingi nnyo ate ku rate ey'amangi tukozesaamu obuveera wano mu Africa olabira ddala mbuno environment egenda kuba ekosebwa mu maaso jjukira tulina framework gye tugoberera omwami Rogers yali agibagamba wano the biodiversity framework of living in harmony with nature by 2050 mbu omwaka 2050 wegunaatuukira nga ffenna tuli bulungi environment yaffe eri bulungi ate nga tulivinga bulungi ne nature ate you cannot live in harmony with nature ng'okyakozesa ebintu ng'obuveera so nema yavaayo emyaka mingi emabega neewera okukozesa buno obuveera but over time obuveera busigadde nga weebuli nga bugenda buproducinga abantu babukozesa nga kiri nomo omwaka ogwedera nema yavaayo n'ekyogerako negaba ne tulina okufunayo system engeri gye tugenda okuba nga tulemesa enkola y'obuveera eno naye ekizibu ekiriwo nti kampuni ezikola obuveera zino kampuni nnene ekisooka bannannyini babazo bantu banene ng'ovudde ne ku ekyo zireeta omusolo mungi eri eggwanga jjukira mu businesses bwezityo ezibanga tezikkirizibwa gavumenti oftentimes baba baagala ne babeera n'enkola eraga n'enkola mu system esobola okubibaringa so enkola ezimu ze bakozesa kwe kuteekako omusolo omungi ku kampuni bweziti naye ekikwewuunyisa nti newooteekako omusolo omungi zisigala ziproducinga ebintu ebyenjawulo so eyo method eragidde ddala mbu naye ekyagaanye okubanga eteeka omusolo bagubateekako mungi gavumenti efunamu naye kati ebeewulira bubi okubanga ekola ki ng'eggala kampuni bwetyo so kireeseewo enjogera egamba oba it has brought up a debate where we are asking so where is the thin line tusobola tutya okubanga tuenshuringa nti kampuni zino zisobola osigalawo naye nga ate n'obuveera tubukendezeza are there other alternative ideas tusobola okukozesa can we use paper bags kubanga yo paper decomposing amangu kampuni zino zisobola okuva mu kukola obuveera ne zitandika okukola paper bags wane ezikola bags nga ezikoleddwa mu material nga nightil ezino ze bakola mu masiki zammwe when do we have that thin line tulabe mbuno abakola obuveera buno tebava mu business because nabo bakola then ate ne environment yaffe oba obutonde nabwo tuboye nga tubukuumye at the end of the day. So kyekyo kigenda mu maaso, obuveera bukyaganye era nema yavuddeyo era negamba ekyagenda mu maaso okubanga eremesa buno obuveera naye kikyali kyamaanyi nnyo, kikyaganye nnyo, kikyabagezeeko naye katubasuubire nti bajja kubanga babikolako mu maaso awo. Program okyali ku The Mighty Drive gwe yakatwegatako amanya nze Edgar Matthew Karuhanga nabagambe leero tugenda kubeera n'omukyala bamuyita Ajah Tabitha Chol Manyiel, ono no muwandiisi wa butabo era agenda kuba atwegatako wano ku Mighty Drive tunyumemu emboozi naye paka ssaawa 3 ez'okumakya. Ndooza tuveeko awo tugende ebweyogerere olunaku lw'eggulo waliwo ekizimbe ekyagudde wali mu bifo by'ebweyogerere. Ekizimbe kino kyegasse ku bizimbe ebingi ebizze nga bigwa, ebizze nga bitta bannayuganda. Ne wano wetuli mu Makindye wali mu Kiwempe wennyini mwalimu ekizimbe ekyaggwa ekyatta abavubuka baali ndooza abavubuka 6. Ndooza olaba overtime tubadde n'ekizibu kino eky'ebizimbe ebigwa ne tulyoka twebuuza KCC alina okublamingibwa, ba engineer bakola ku bino ebizimbe be balina okublamingibwa, who is to blame at the end of the day, because we are losing innocent lives of Ugandans, because Omunnayuganda yagenda ku site ayagala agenda kukola kufunayo sente ze zanagulira abantu bewaabwe okubeezaawo family at the end of the day. Naye tukola tutya sisti woloke CCA department gyalina monitoringa bino ebizimbe, lwaki ebizimbe bikyagwa paka ssaawa zino? Ekyatuyambye nti olunaku lw'eggulo ebweyogerere abantu 2 be bafunye injuries, be bafunye obuvune naye tewali n'omuntu omwe yafudde. That is a very very good thing. Tewali muntu yafiiriddwa bulamu bwe mu kizimbe kino. Naye ekizibu ekiriwo nti nno ebizimbe bigwa nnyo ate byeyongera okugwa. Waliwo ekyagwa mu Kampala, ndooza mukijjukira wali Kampala wakati kumpi ne Hamu, ekizimbe ekyo ekyayiika era paka kati tetunaba kufuna report eri conclusive egamba nti ekizimbe kyagwera lwa nsonga eno n'eno ate tugenda kikola mu ngeri eno n'eno. So that is another challenge that we are having as a society. So tulabe engeri gyesobola okubanga tukikyusaamu because ebizimbe byongedde okubanga bitta bannayuganda ab'enjawulo. Bannayuganda abalina family, so omuntu waba aziisa omuntu owuwenga ekizimbe kigudde at the end of the day bambi naye aba afiirwa. So tugezeeko okukola standards nga zigenda kuyamba abantu bennyini, nga ziyamba n'abantu ne bannannyini bizimbe bino. Twensuringa mbu n'ebizimbe bye tuzimba bannaye ebizimbe biri ku mutindo, because wekiba tekiri ku mutindo teri agenda kuba nga akyettanira. So ebintu by'okupalapalanya nga tuzimba mangu ogezaako wano ogezaako wali, buli omu bannange tugezeeko okuba nga tubeera beegendereza eggwanga lyaffe lisobole okuba nga ligenda mu maaso. So eyo story evudde wali ebweyogerere, abantu 20 be bafunye obuvune naye ekirungi mbu tewali omu ku bo eyafiiriddwa obulamu. Eddakiika ziri 12 ezakayita ku ssaawa emu ey'okumakya. Amannya nze Edgar Matthew Karuhanga. Omukyala ali ku kamera olunaku lwaleero bamuyita Anita Musimenta, yali ku camera, then producer wange of course omwami Mukose Arnold Anthony ne Teddy Tenjo Nabukeera bwali awo, of course ne Jeremiah Mukiibi wabeerawo production okubanga bakutuusaako zino ensonga mu budde bwennyini bw'ozirabiramu oba getting information in real time. Ndooza tugendeko wali mu kakiiko aka Kosase. Kosase eyongedde okubanga enoonyereza ebintu bingi era okuva wetwatandika ndooza mpezemba wa stories nyingi Kosase zegenze ng'enoonyereza. Kosase yaliko wali mu Arua Airport we yanoonyereza neraba obutebe obwagulwa $12 naye ng'obutebe bugendekawe mu katwe wali okafuna ku mitwalo ndooza 25 oba 3 kiri Uganda maama nnyabo. So bano abaami abakosase nga bakulembeddwa omwami Joel Ssenyonyi batandise okubeera nga banoonyereza ettaka erya Uganda Railway Corporation oba eyo railway ekitongole ekitambuza railway oba of course ekyoverratinga the railway system in this country. So batandise okuba nga banoonyereza ku ttaka lyakyo. Ettaka ly'ekitongole kino lyatundibwa eddala lyalizingibwa naye ate ssente tezireflectinga ku bank accounts za Uganda Railway Corporation. So ne twebuuza oba ne beebuuza ssente zino zirazeewa. Ng'olabamu ssente zino nnyingi, ssente ziri mu buwumbi. Waliwo kampani nnyingi ezoogeddwako mu kunoonyereza kuno. Kampuni esooka ya university gye bayita KIU, Kampala International University. Waliwo ettaka lyeyazimbako ekisaawe, ndooza abamanyi KIU ekisaawe nga ovudde ku basketball court waliwo ekisaawe ekiri wansi ddala eri at the extreme end of the university. Eryo ettaka nno sente tebannawandika kasa sente zaalyo ziriwa. In fact story eno nene because sente ziri mu buwumbi wetwogerera nga mulimu abamu abaagula mulimu abalala abaalizingibwa naye sente ekiri common, the common denominator that we have is that the money did not reflect on the accounts of the URC. So where exactly is this money kyekyebuuzibwa, ensimbi zino ziri luddawa. N'ekitongole kyayogeddwako kye kya IUIU oba gye bayita Islamic University in Uganda eri ku ttaka lya Uganda Railway Corporation, naye essente era tetuziraba bulungi ate nga bamaze bino ebitongole bino byenjogera bimaze ku ttaka line obudde bungi nnyo, emyaka n'emyaka, myaka na bisiibo. So kusasa etandise okunoonyereza sente zino zaalagawa, baani abaali responsible ku sente zino, which is a very very good thing. Era bagamba ba private stakeholders abo bafuna batya access ku ttaka lino, under what terms and conditions were they allowed to settle in that land, how were they supposed to pay for this land, and who did they pay that money to? So that is the questions, all those are the questions that the COSASE is actually looking through. Jukira COSASE kano kakiiko ka parliament akanoonyereza ku nkozesa y'essente za gavumenti nti zigenda zitya, bazikozesa batya, tebaziteekawo. Omwami Joel Ssenyonyi akoze omulimu gw'amaanyi okuba nga anoonyereza ku nsonga zino. Kyekyebuuzibwa we bamala okubakwata, is there another systematic approach or systematic way of okubatwala mu court tandika okuba prosecutinga okusobola tyo okufuna funds zino ezabbibwa? Because oftentimes abantu balesewo talk nyingi mpu we have these committees of parliament that actually do these things, that investigate, and that is a very very good job. But then after investigating, do they bite? Ekyo kyekibuuzo nti bakwata bano abantu ababeera involved mu bintu weebiti, because obanga okwata bukwasi naye nga onoonyereza naye nga tetewali results zosobola kulaba ez'omuggundu. Yes, waliwo abantu batera okutwala ne bagamba kati tumukwasiza poliisi naye tubawulidde nga wiiki 2 baavuddeyo dda yafunye dda bbeera oli ali kulya butaala, n'ogamba naye akakiiko ka parliament okunoonyeza kwonna kwe kataddemu, n'olukiiko bwonna butambulira ku ssente nnyingi, okugenda mu facilitation transport, okutambula mafuta, ebyo byonna ssebo ssente ziba nnyingi. So at the end of the day, where do we find what they call the value for money? Nti ssente ze tutadde mu bukiiko zino tuzijjayo tutya, ebintu bye basalawo Parliament erina engeri gy'ebiconsideringamu. Parliament webiconsideringa bano abantu ababeera bali involved, tuba holdinga tutya accountable. Mu kifo just kyokuba sibayo wiiki emu, wiiki 2, omwezi gumu, emyezi 2, ne bavaayo ne batandika okulya butaala ng'abatalina kintu kyonna kye baali bakozeeko. So mu bintu ebyo tusaba nti gavumenti yennyini naye esooka eyeebereremu abantu bano bebakwata basobole okuba nga tebabakwata bukwasi naye nga they are held accountable at the end of the day. So ekyo kyekiri wali COSASE etandise okunoonyereza bannange, enoonyereza bulungi, omulimu gwabwe bali mu kugukola, era that is something we can say that at least it's a plus for the COSASE and the Parliament of Uganda, the 11th Parliament in particular. Omulimu gwe bakoze gubadde mulungi nnyo. Kangendeko ndoza mu byemizannyo katono. Olunaku lw'eggulo twabadde tulaba Champions League etandise okuba nga etojjera, ate ebadde omupiira guli mu kunyumira ddala ennaku zino. Champions League afuuse Champions League. Olunaku lw'eggulo twalaba Inter Milan yadde ezannya Shakhtar Donetsk, bakubye goal zadde 2 ku bwereere. Omusajja Edin Dzeko yakubye brace eyabadde ennungi ennyo, omusajja mukadde naye goal aziteeba. Manchester City yasobodde okuba nga yeenunula nekuba goalo zabadde 2 kwemu, ate nga yakoze kye bayita a remarkable comeback. Ekisajja Kylian Mbappe kyabakubye goalo mu dakika ya 50. No, Kylian Mbappe mwana muto naye goalo zaafubutukako obufubutusi, because Mbappe is 22 years and Mbappe is scoring 100+ goals. Imagine what Mbappe is going to do by the time he reaches Cristiano Ronaldo's age. Anaba tamenyewo record z'abasajja nga Ronaldo, naye nga yakubye goal mu dakika ya 50. Manchester City nekola comeback, Sterling n'abakuba, then Jesus naye n'abaddamu n'asobola okuba nga babakutula. Juka baali wali mu Parc des Princes, ekisaawe kya PSG. Abasajja bano aba Manchester City bajja ne babakubirawo omupiira gwali mulamandoza. Mujjukira Lionel Messi ng'afuna goal ye yasooka mu mujozi guno ogwa PSG. So ate Lionel Messi abeeyagaliramu nnyo abasajja ba Manchester City. Remember that game that was there? I think that was 2013. Messi we yasooka n'aliisa abasajja ba Fernandinho amajiba ne Fernandinho suffered in that game. You should go watch it on YouTube. Ujeguli Messi Barcelona yali ezanya timu eno ya Manchester City. Leipzig yagudde ku Club Brugge n'amukuba golo za 5 ku bwerere. AC Milan abasajja bano nabo bakubye Atletico golo ya demu ku bwerere mu dakika ya 97 kisajja ki Junior Marseillais. Manya gabayitale mazibu. Marseillais yakubye abasajja bana ba Atletico golo ya demu ku bwerere. Liverpool yakubye timu ene ya Porto goals za 2 ku bwerere. Liverpool is on the form of their life, and of course Borussia Dortmund bamukubye omupiira mulamba. Chemanyi bakwano banga batera okubeera mu bintu by'okusiba akapapula Jomo ayuziza because Sporting Lisbon teri adamu akuba basajja bana aba Dortmund naye baba kubye golo za 3 ku bwerere atenga ne balemeddwa ne penalty kuba bateba penalty yaabwe bali wala nnyo. Madrid yakoze revenge ku katimu kana akasherifa akaji kwa first round yabakubye golo za 3 ku bwerere ng'ataba kubira makaga bwe mwe aba Manchester United kunaku olwokubiri mwateba mwakuba goals 2 ku bwerere mu ngamu kwa timu ene ya Villarreal. Cristiano Ronaldo nga bulijjo kyakola nga yabayambye n'abakubira golo za yademu. Then Jordan Sancho naye yakube mu dakika y'ekyenda golo eyokubiri. Manchester United ne bange wangula omupiira ogwo golo 2 ku bwerere. Bayern yakuba Dynamo Kiev olunaku lwokubiri zaali golo 2 ku 1. Then Barcelona yagwa draw ne timu ya Benfica. Young Boys ne Atlanta nabo bagwa draw golo 3-3. Sevilla yakuba golo 2 ku bwerere. Then Lille ne yakuba Salzburg golo 1 ku bwerere. Chelsea eyongedde okulaga nti nno bannange okulya Champions League season ewedde tekyali by mistake. Ekubya Juventus zabadde golo 4 ku bwerere. Dakika ziri 21 ezakayita ku ssaawa emu ey'okumakya nga bwe twabasuubiza omukyala Ajah agenda kuba twegattako wano. Erinnya lye Ajah, so siri mugamba nti Ajah. Omukyala the guest of today, she's called Ajah. Agenda kuba twegattako muwandiisi wa butabo era omwami Rogers tuli awo agenda kubeera wano nga bamubuuzamu ku bibuuzo nga tulaba engeri gye tusobola okukyusa eggwanga lino. Amanya nze Edgar Matthew Karuhanga kyasanyu okuba nga mukyali ku Mighty Drive era tetukitwala nga kintu kitono nga muli okutwegattako okuva ku ssaawa mpaka ku ssaawa 3. Kibeera kyasanyu nnyo okubalaba nga muzze. Mwebale nnyo okuba nga mutusupporting era tubasuubiza nti tugenda kubongera okuba wa quality work, tugenda kwongera okuba wa quality information, tugenda okwongera okuredefining nga kye bayita online platforms, the digital platforms, because at the end of the day when you look at it, the future is going to be digital. These days we are going digital, so for us we are tapping into the future. Era abalala abaleeta ebyabwe waliwo be nawulira awo abagezaako okubanga bakopa there is what they call class, so you can't outclass class. My name is Edgar Matthew Karuhanga. Let's go in for a short commercial break. When we come back, the Mighty Drive starts now.
Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Nze omubejja luwedde Lilian mbaniriza maka gaffe amajja era nga wano tugenda okuba nga tukolera programu yaffe emanyiddwa nga The Voltage gaba masanyalaze gennyini era nga twogera ku bintu ebyenjawulo omwo nno mwe muli ebigenda mu maaso mu ggwanga, ensonga z'eby'obufuzi n'obukulembeze bw'eggwanga Uganda, twogera ku nsonga ez'abavubuka, eddembe ly'obuntu awamu n'ebyenkulaakulana. Togisubwa buli lunaku olwokutaano eba ssaawa emu ey'akawungeezi paka ssaawa 3 ez'ekiro.
The Diaspora Link buli lwakuna ssaawa 11 paka ssaawa 1 ey'olweggulo ye program gye tukuleetedde wano ku Alternative Digital Uganda. Tugenda batutunulira embeera z'Abannayuganda baganda baffe bannyinaffe zibawangaaliramu mu mawanga ag'ebunaayira. Bangi banyigirizibwa, bangi bakosebwa, bangi bayisiddwamu amaaso. Naye tugenda batutunulira engeri gye tusobola okulongosaamu embeera zaabwe. Tugenda kuba tulaba abo abakwatibwako abateekeddwa okuba nga balongoosa embeera zino eno. Tosubwa buli lwakuna n'omuweerezaawo Nixon Segawa.
Hello everyone, my name is Abdallah Latif and I welcome you to the Hotline Show here at the Alternative Dig Talk. as we discuss issues of national importance. Join us every Monday, 7 to 9 p.m. and see who will be occupying these seats here with us. Keep it Big Talk. Real issues, real talk.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Roger Stoyabo. I welcome every one of you to the Mighty Drive today. It's a Thursday, it's a morning, and people around here like to say that please wake up. I mean, so I picked that because I think it's important for each one of us to remember every single morning that you need to go out there, you need to make life happen. You have dependents that are going to depend on you, they probably are not yet there, but are going to come up with time. So you better go there, plan for those people, and even those who are, looking at you at the moment. But I'm not alone today. We have a guest in the studio who will be introducing herself. I don't want to preempt her, beginning, but I also have Lydia Nduwede, or Mombeja Princess in English, for those who don't know Uganda. Princess, I will tell you just a little introduction. How are you? How your week has been? And then we shall have the guest.
Thank you, Regis. Good morning. Kankosendo za kulimi orafu lutono. Mwasuze mtia abatulaba the Mighty Drive program jali mukulaba nze Omombeja Luwedde Lilian. Mu studios tuina mchala Ajah yagenda kubanga ate atwe yanjulia ononno aina akatabo ke yawandika agenda kuba tubulira bichi ebiri mu katabo ako lwaki ya choosing that title lwaki yawandika akatabo akera yakawandika asinzidde ku kibi natugenda kubanga ate tubyogerako olwaleero so bwanga oyina ekibuuzo genda butereevu ku Facebook page ya The Alternative Uganda beranga ate ekibuuzo kyo ukiteekayo wali mu comment section nawe ate ali ku YouTube ojja kubanga ate program eno giraba mu dakiika ntono nnyo nga twakagiwunzika gwe tulinyo ku YouTube osobola okubanga ate subscribing ku channel yaffe ku Instagram The Alternative Uganda ate nga ku Twitter tuli The Alternative Uganda gye mikutu gy'osobola okubanga ate otufunirako gwabadde akutte remote ng'otambuza channel eno n'eno ng'otunoonya mukwano bambi ate tuli live ku Facebook page yaffe era nga ate kwosobola okubanga ate otufuna. Welcome to the show. Let me just introduce Miss Ajah. Yeah, let me just introduce her and then we start our conversation from there. Good morning.
Good morning. Sir.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
How have you been?
Been okay.
Okay. So tell us about Miss Ajah. Who is Miss Ajah?
Okay. My name is Ajah Tabitha Chol. I'm a South Sudanese citizen, and I'm a student at Kampala International University. I do international relations and diplomatic studies. It's what I'm studying.
Okay.
Yeah.
What does that course entirely do? All that stuff.
It deals on how states relate with each other. Mostly countries, but in international relations we call countries states. So it is all about the relationship that states have with each other. Yeah.
Okay. How long have you been in Uganda?
I think more than 15 years, since childhood. I came as a kid.
Oh, wow. That's really
So
good.
do you have Ugandan citizenship?
Not yet.
Okay, but you're partially Ugandan
Yes,
in simple sense.
Yes.
Okay, so Tabitha, you said, she mentioned that you're an author, and I see you have a book that you're holding.
Yes.
Is it the one you authored?
Yes, it's the book that I wrote.
Okay, so what could you tell us a little bit about the book? Why that very book? As in, why did you decide to write about that kind of thing?
Okay, this book, the title is The Woman of Kush, My Country in War and Peace.
Let's see the title.
Yeah, this book is about the role of women, South Sudanese women in peace building.
So women played a role in peace building.
Yes. They played a role and they're still playing a role.
What exactly? Okay, what's that role that women played? We would like to know.
Okay, during the liberation wars, I think you're most familiar with the wars that took place in Sudan. By then, it was Sudan before it was divided, and we had so many wars that claimed lives, of which women participated in bringing about peace, supporting the men that had gone to the front line, and some women even joined the soldiers in the front line. So those were some of the roles women played. They even went to the refugee camps with children, and those are some of the things that they did during that time.
So you decided to write a book about all that experience?
Yeah, I had to write about the things that they did in the past, and even the things that they are doing now, yet somehow they are not recognized. I'm trying to bring them to light so that people are able to see, yes, the things that women can do in the country.
How did you manage to write this book? Because you said you've been in Uganda for over 15 years. So how did you get to know that, oh, they were going through this or they were going through this?
Okay, I've been in Uganda, but I'm also connected to my family back home. Sometimes I go during the holidays. Sometimes I interact with the family members. And the continuous toll of conflicts that are taking place in the country are the one that gave me the inspiration so that I can be part of those that can bring about peace. Yes.
Okay.
So the whole inspiration was basing on the war, like the war, how it happened,
Okay.
and how it has affected the country. Was that the inspiration behind the writing of that book?
Yeah, I think it's one of them, though there are so many. As you look at the situation right now, you realize that there are so many refugees, South Sudanese refugees that are in Uganda. There are South Sudanese refugees in other countries, in different continents like Australia, America, UK. So, you know, the country does not have to have people that are always running out of the country. So I felt there's a need for us to go back, and we cannot go back without having peace built back in the country. Yes, so it's why I'm doing my part.
Okay.
Okay, so before we get to, I want to get to that, but I want to know, you've been in Uganda for about 15 years. So, like, you've been here, like, you've done your studies all in Uganda. Did you come as a refugee at the time? Like, how do you get to Uganda?
Okay, I think the first time I came, I stepped on the Ugandan soil. I was about 4 years, and I came here as a refugee. I was with my mom, and she was holding my little baby sister, the one who followed me on her back. So that's how I lived and came here.
Okay, so you came here as a refugee. Now that has you've stayed for all the education. Your family is still in the in South Sudan.
Okay. No, during that time, many South Sudanese came to Uganda as refugees. But in the course of the struggle, I think when we attained peace, most people had already gone back to South Sudan. That was in 2011 when South Sudan got its independence. Yes, and after that moment, we got a short period of time where there was peace. So by that time, all my family members were back in South Sudan. Not until the war of 2013 that again I had to take people back to the refugee camps.
Okay.
But I've not been living there mostly. I lived there as a child, but education took me away. I stayed in Koboko, came to Arua, and finally in Kampala.
In Kampala.
So you've done your education from down. You've been in Uganda the whole of this period.
Yes.
How has it been?
I think it's been good. Ugandans are generally good people, and I'm now more familiar with them.
Let's talk about the time you were in the refugee camp. How was it?
Okay, during that time, when I was a child, I had so much inspiration, and I was a child who was very sensitive. That's how I was. So there were so many things that I had to capture in my memory every single time. And those are some of the things that have inspired me to who I am today. Things were not that easy. But again, because I was young, I could not feel the intensity of what was happening, the challenges that refugees go through. But recently, it was very easy for me to know that these are real challenges. Yeah.
So going through the refugee camps and being a refugee at such an early age, how's that informed you, you're growing up, you know that you are making these kind of choices?
Yeah.
Because probably because of the background I've had growing up, how's that affected you growing up?
Okay. There are some memories. For example, I think 2005, there was a way people scared themselves in the refugee camps. And as we were saying, the host communities are going to attack the refugees. So we had to be woken up in the middle of the night, and we had to move only to realize that it was not true. Yeah. So some of those things are the things that really inspire me up to date. I remember we worked for more than 5 hours, and just imagine a young kid moving at that time of the night. And for today, it could not be the same thing, but there are similar challenges that refugees go through. Yeah.
Most especially, let's look at the side of girls. As a girl in the refugee camp, how did you manage to survive without? Okay, if I may ask, do you have a baby? No. Not yet. Okay, so how did you manage to survive in the refugee camp without getting pregnant?
As I told you, by that time I was young. I came to the refugee camp when I was about 4, 5, 6, 7 there. Then we went back to the country. By the time I came back, I was already in school, so I've not been living there that much. But the question you asked me are some of the things that girls are facing that side. Yeah.
Do you receive, you've been in a refugee camp, and a number of those, because when I was reading some statistics from the Human Rights Watch, I think about 1.3 million South Sudanese are refugees in Uganda.
Yes.
Do you guys have like a community? Does your government follow up to know that these kind of people went to this kind of country, how their life has been, that kind of thing?
I think we have different communities, but the challenges of refugees, I don't think if they've been really followed up by the government. Because when we had our late leader, Dr. John Garang, things were much better. Though I was a kid, I was able to see the situation that people were living in. Things were much better for reasons being that he used to pay visits to the different refugee camps, checking the state of people, what they were eating and everything. But I think the current government is more engaged in the conflicts that are going on in the country. And because of that, they've not paid much attention to seeing the state of people. And that's why currently refugees are facing a lot of challenges.
They haven't come out to help you guys.
No, it's really hard.
Don't you have any associations or any leaders in the camps to help?
We have leaders in the camp, but they do not have much influence. Yes, over the refugees.
Okay, so let's talk about a little bit about your country, on how the president has handled the conflicts.
Okay, I think the president is doing his part as a country that is transitioning from war to peace. There's always a lot that takes place, and we can always trace that back to history of different countries. It's just the same way it was here in Uganda years back. When Uganda attained its independence, there were so many challenges that people were receiving. And it is the same thing that is happening right now in South Sudan. However, there are also changes in the world. There is a lot of pressure that you get from the developed world telling you to do this. And some of those challenges are very hard to handle in just one day. They need time. And I think those people will come up together.
You have been, well, there's been a lot of refugees. They are still here. And most of you guys are in school. Does the government of Uganda pay school, like tuition for you guys? Is it the government of South Sudan? Do you do it yourself? Because if someone has grown up in, for example, a refugee camp, chances are they are not able to pay their own tuition because, I mean, they are not working.
Yeah.
They are living in a refugee camp. So how do you go about education? How do you make sure you have those, needs as you grow up?
Okay, I think education in the refugee camps is supported by some organizations, humanitarian organizations, but it is not everyone that is able to attain that. For example, I myself, it's been my mother supporting my education. But years back, I had my uncle that was supporting me in school, but then he died in the 2013 war. He was a major general. So from there, my mother had to pick up because she knows that I have a future ahead of me, and she's been doing everything it takes. But there are so many young people in the refugee camps who are not in school. Others go to school, maybe primary or high school, and stop from there because there is no much support. Window Trust has been playing a very major role in supporting the refugees, but the number is so high that if it's to educate every single person, it will be hard.
So, sorry, a little bit. You said in the refugee camps, some people actually they are paid tuition for by the humanitarian organizations.
Yeah.
So, is there a kind of consideration that someone qualifies to receive that kind of education? This one does not qualify. What is the criteria?
Yeah, there are such things. For example, they look at the performance of someone, that is one, and then they also look at the state of your family. You know, even in the refugee camps, people are different. There are also different classes of people, much as we are one. There is someone that can be having support maybe from their family, or maybe there is somebody that can be having a support from friend. Yet there are also people that are totally not having others who can support them. So that is one of the things that they use, and I think it's why I did not qualify for it, because there are students that are in a much worse condition than I am.
So for you, had support from home or
From my mother.
or from your mother? Yeah. Your mother is in South Sudan now.
She's in Germany in the
Oh.
You are all here. Since you came when you were 4, she has also been here with you like for that long?
No, okay. During the time our country was in peace, my mother had gone back to South Sudan. But she came after the conflict of 2013. But I was here with my uncle's family. Yeah.
Okay. So let's now talk about a little bit about your country. As was it a right move for you guys to gain independence, or you would have stayed as a whole, as Sudan, as one Sudan?
I think it was a right move to have our own country. But again, there's a way the Arab world is now looking at us, because it's been a great challenge separating from someone only for you to fight yourselves.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a good picture. But at the moment, at the time we were in the liberation struggle, we really longed to have our own country. So if we had come together and say, yes, now that we have our country, how do we build it? It would be a better way of handling it than just going back to peace.
But again, now you guys are fighting yourselves in your country, the South Sudan. You guys are fighting yourselves.
I think another thing that I can tell you is that there are some wars that we fight within Africa that do not really belong to us. And this has happened in most countries in Africa where people have resources. You have a lot of influence from outside, the invisible hand. And this could be one of the reasons that South Sudan is at war, because there are people whose wars you're fighting and you don't even know why you're fighting them. And this has been a challenge in almost every country in Africa. So by the time we get to know that we are fighting wars that do not belong to us, it is when we will have that peace.
So let's first go back to the secession. What prompted that whole move to know, we want to break away from the main Sudan? What prompted the secession?
I think it's one of the things I have highlighted in this book of mine. I have talked about the liberation struggle of South Sudan. And what led to it was that the Arabs who were from the northern part of Sudan had marginalized the southerners who are the real Sudanese. Yeah, those people came many years ago as traders. They settled in the country, and with time they took over. So you can just imagine that pain of somebody terrorizing you in your own land.
That's right.
So you decided to fight for independence.
Yes, our forefathers decided to fight for the independence.
So the mainstream Sudan is majorly made up of Arabs, I think.
Yes.
I think even the skin is kind of white,
Yes.
more than yours is.
Yeah.
So actually the main residents of this area, the inhabitants that were there were those who are you people who are in South Sudan. So the others had actually invaded the land, and they have been,
Yes.
governing it for that long.
Yeah.
Well, that was a serious move. So I want to guess to, you fought for almost a decade for the secession to break out from the mainstream Sudan.
Yeah, it's more than a decade.
More than a decade? Okay. And then in 2011, you had your independence.
Yeah.
Like, how does that, how was it easy for you people to get to that? Because, okay, you had fought for like 10 years, but it's not, it doesn't
that
come.
was about 21
20,
years.
yeah, more than 20
21.
years,
Wow.
yes.
More than 2 decades, actually. Chai, that's serious. So, getting to the independence, how, like, what prompted the discussion that, you know, we have fought for that long, we need to get to the table with these people and know what they want, why are they fighting, or if they even deserve to get their own state independent from the main stream South Sudan, Sudan.
Okay, the first thing is that we had a leader who was so visionary, and that's Dr. John Garang. He had really done everything it took for South Sudan to be independent. This is a man who was in one of the big offices in Sudan by then, and he was working with the military, was the one in charge, I think, of bringing in weapons into the country, everything. So when the Southerners organized and had to go against the government of Khartoum, this leader was sent, Dr. John was sent to the southern region to check what was happening.
To his region.
Yes. So when he heard about it, when he got the opportunity of being sent to the country, to the southern region, what he did was to join the people that were demonstrating against the government, and he began fighting the government that sent him. So I think that shows that he was a leader that looked so far. Yeah.
To his people.
Yes.
How come most of you believe in the late Garang than the current president right now?
You know, people are not the same. That's one thing we must consider. And if the late Garang was somebody that did a lot, we cannot deny that fact. Yeah, he was a man that was so visionary. And even our current leader is visionary, much as he's in association with people that are not so much interested in development. And I think that is one thing that is affecting him. And even at one point he said, I'm working with people that are not development oriented. They are people that are just interested in eating. I think that was a very painful statement.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It must have been, because I think majority of the conflicts we've had over time since independence have been tribal wars. You know, it is the Dig against the Noir. You call it the Noir, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So majorly it has been tribes. It's ethnic groups fighting each other. So, like, do you, when you are getting together the independence, all those ethnic groups were being represented in leadership, because that could have been one of the reasons that sparked the whole conflict and all.
You know, ethnic wars are some of the most dangerous things that we can see here in Africa, because it is hard to stop one ethnic group from attacking the other. But again, the way that they are fought, some of them look so ignorant, some of these wars, because you cannot fight somebody just because you come from another tribe. It doesn't make sense.
But now when, was it the Vice President, Riek Machar? When he was fired, and then the people from his group started a war.
Yes, that is a history.
But it could also have been that, well, when he was fired, he was being, I think, accused of, was it corruption or something like that? When he was fired, and then a number of other ministers.
When the president said that he's planning a coup to overthrow him.
Which he
I did not, yes, he denied that fact, but I did not follow up so much with why he had to fight. But again, our people are in this situation where someone tells you do this and you don't come out to find, to analyze what is really behind. And I think that's why these people said we have to fight this other tribe, and then this other tribe is saying no, we are defending the president, because it started in a very weird way.
So I want to go to, you've had peace talks over time.
Yes.
There's that 2013, was it a compromise peace agreement, something like that? In 2015, was it 2015, I think?
Yeah, we've been
After
having a series of peace
you've
talks.
had
There was even
2015,
this,
you had
the
2018.
recent one, the ceasefire, is it the ceasefire
Yes.
agreement?
Something like that. You've had a number of those. Have they even come up to, have they solved any issue?
We are a working progress. We've been having all those peace talks and nothing much really worked out. But at least they are trying their best to put the country back in position.
Okay.
And it is actually why I've written this book. I will always refer you to this book. I've seen so many things done in the country, but there is nothing going forward. That's why I said, let me write this book. I began writing it in 2018.
Oh,
I said, let me write this book so that women can know what their role is in state building, so that they can take up their position to start doing something.
Before we go deep into the book itself, let's talk about the women in South Sudan. Most of the times women are marginalized and they're not given opportunities. How is it in South Sudan?
Yeah, that is the history of South Sudan is actually about the marginalization of women to some extent, because women are looked at as a weaker sex, there's nothing that they can achieve on their own. For example, girls are even denied education with the saying that they have to get married. What will they do with their education?
From childhood, they train you to be a marriage material.
To be a woman. Yes, so those are some of the challenges that women are facing.
In the transitional constitution that you had when you got independence in 2011, you have a full article, I think it's Article 16, that gives the right of women, they have the right to meaningfully and equally participate in politics, in basically everything. Is that being followed as a country? Because now that is grounded in the grand norm in the constitution that is the big law in the land. How is that going against people doing the opposite of the constitution and people who are the same? Because this time we would say that maybe that was happening before because the mainstream Sudan, those people are probably different from South Sudan, from the indigenous people. So these are the same people, and you have a constitution that stipulates the foundation for equal participation of all gender and young people. How do you follow this up?
Okay, one major problem that we have as Africans is that we do not follow up the constitution. I think you can even see the same in Uganda, the same in Kenya, and in every part of Africa. However, there are countries that are much better than others. And my country falls in the bracket of those countries that are not so much into the things that the constitution wants people to do. Yeah, so it could be written in the constitution, but outside it is hard to practice it. And again, we have things that have taken our attention. Yeah, things like the conflicts that are taking place. Everyone is looking at how we can end the conflicts that are in South Sudan. So I think when these conflicts come to an end, it's when we will get back to the communities and say what is not happening, and in line with the constitution, and bring a way that it can work out. But for now, it is not so much a thing that people are considering.
Let's look at your country economy-wise. How is it?
The economy at the moment is doing bad. But when we got the independence, I think we had the most strongest currency in the region, I think.
The East African
because
region?
Yes.
Your money is in pounds, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we are going to go in for a short commercial break, but when we come back, we want to know if these refugees, especially those who are in Uganda, are they participating maybe politically in their country, in their affairs? Are they informing the government on certain things? We want to also look at the constitution, how it's being followed, how this war has affected them economically, as she was saying, maybe just get a little bit of a glimpse on how they're working, how the conflicts have affected women and young people at that, how we can go about that. So we're going to go in for a short commercial break, but in the second hour, you'll be able to call in. We will read you the numbers, so in the second hour you can call in, ask a question, or make a clarification if you have,
not
Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
You have got to get up pretty early to go do something. We are the Alternative Dig Talk. With our mobile studios, we are redefining TV presentation just as technology is setting the pace. We are blending our approach with fresh, perspectively designed breakfast show, The Mighty Drive, informative and entertainment show, exclusive and live interviews.
President Museveni wadde juzi namulaba apima akawunga kilo 2 tasobola kalya nini bwaba alya kilo 5 oyannema okuliisa eggwanga ne bwe limundekera.
Njagala kwebaza the Alternative Dig Talk etuwadde kano ka Mighty Drive era n'abatuwuliriza bonna abali ku mikutu njagala basaba mugendo mu maaso n'okuwuliriza.
All given to you just a click away on your phone, tablet, laptop and smart TVs as we are streaming live on our social media platforms, on the road and on the go. We are the Alternative Dig Talk.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Kuleka yonyo mukuwumula mwoko The Mighty Drive ye program gy'oli mukulaba nze omwombeja luwedde Lilian ndiri munnange Rogers Tulyahabwe awamu n'omugenyi waffe mukyala Ajah Tabitha alina amanya mangi naye ate atugezaako okubanga tugamenyaamenya bulungi nnyo so that tetugasobya naye nga tukyagenda mu maaso omukutu gukyali The Alternative Uganda kusobola okubanga ate otufunira bw'oba ogenze ku Facebook page yo search engine teekamu The Alternative Uganda ojja kubanga ate otufuna bulungi likinga page yaffe ate otufollowing onyegene alarm button eyo nti buli bwe tugenda live osobola okufuna notification naawe nobeera kitundutundu ate ku program ebeera eriyo tulina programs nyingi ezosobola okubanga ate naawe munange obeera kitundutundu nga ate oteesa tuli mu ssaawa yaffe ey'okubiri osobola okubanga ate otukubirako obutereevu mu studios studio line ziri 0789 017145 0789017145 oba 0759 132310 your number ate Airtel. You can call in live and then ask Miss Ajah any question that you want to ask, and then she will be able to reply to you. Those are the numbers that I've read to you. You can call in right now or any time from now, and then you ask a question. Miss Ajah is going to be replying. We are in our second hour, and we're going to be talking about the book that she wrote. What exactly what compelled her to write this book, and why did she choose this title? She's going to be telling us a lot about her book, and then we're going to be talking about a little bit of her country that we were discussing in the previous hour, and then she will be able to talk about her book in the next minutes from now. Kati awo wenjagalira okubategeeza nti Praise Property Consultants bakugamba nti bweyagala okubanga ogula ettaka osobola okubanga ate obakubirako ku namba zaabwe ez'essimu ne babeera nga ate munnange bakuyamba. Bano nno badiiringa mu nsonga z'eby'ettaka, ayagala ekyapa n'ebirala bingi nnyo ate bye bakolako. Osobola okubanga ate naawe obakubirako ne babeera nga munnange ate bakuyamba. Enamba yaabwe eri 0706 147 006 oba 0783 821918 ze namba zaabwe ate kusobola okubanga ate obafunira babeere nga naye bakuguza ettaka mu bitundu by'eggwanga ebyenjawulo. Munnange ate naawe weeyagale obulamu ate okutambulira ddala bulungi. Kansooka enzireyo Miss I don't know why I mistakenly called you Ajah. In my head I have it that you're called Ajah. In Atenga you called Ajah. So back to you, Miss Ajah. How have these conflicts affected the women in particular?
Okay, the women of South Sudan have been forced to leave the country and go and seek for refuge with their children. And it has been a challenge to them. Dealing with children, living far away from home has been a very serious challenge to them.
And speaking of, as you mentioned women, you also mentioned children. We want to look at, because majorly, I think most countries look at women and children as kind of those groups are usually marginalized. So we want to get a whole picture into how the young people have been affected, children in particular, and maybe the young people, someone might be 15, 20, but they are being affected in a certain way. Youth, children, and women generally. How is it treating them?
Most of the times it is the women that are vulnerable, women and children that are vulnerable towards. In a way that when conflicts come up, the men go to the front line. And the women remain with the children. That's why they are, when you want to talk about women, you have to cover the topic of children, yes, because they all go together. And as a result, women run away from countries after wars, and they run with children seeking for refuge. So it has been a challenge for children, for mothers to take care of children. And one of them, there was a time I visited a refugee camp, and I was looking for a certain home. Then someone told me that here in the refugee camp, when you're looking for a house or somebody's home, you have to know the name of the woman in that house. Because it is mostly the women that are there. So you can imagine that's the state people are in. But there are few families where men are there. Okay,
talking about the same issue of women, I think the Human Rights Watch also reported that about more than 1,500 young girls have been forced into marriages, early pregnancies, some forced prostitution, by the way, in major areas of Western, Central, and I think Eastern Equatoria.
Okay.
Has the government, come up to say to stop this kind of act, because some of those issues are actually being brought about by the army. Yeah. The security forces are sometimes who are doing this kind of thing. So is the government, reaching out to address this kind of issues?
Yeah, the government is doing a lot. The government is trying its best to make sure that such challenges are dealt with. But as I told you earlier, that there are things that have taken our attention as South Sudanese. And that is the war that is taking place, the wars, the conflicts that people are having, are the things that government is looking at by all means to make sure they are stopped. So matters to do with early girl child marriage, other things, they are not so much put into consideration. Yeah. Okay,
but also considering the budget that the government puts in the health sector, I don't know, is it even able to cater for those things? I was reading some report and they said about 1.2% of the budget was, I think, previously put in the health sector. Like the ministry has, just 1%, 1.2%.
Okay.
How is, that working out? Because you have young girls who have been pregnant, who are teenage mothers who don't know what to do, so they need health as much as possible. So is the government looking at maybe increasing this kind of funding so that, as these things are happening, because they concern them as a country, are they looking at increasing the funding in that sector or something?
Yeah, the government is looking at that, increasing the funding. But as I told you, I will always go back to the first answer I gave you, that the conflicts that we have had in South Sudan have taken so much attention in a way that even the little money that comes in is used to make sure that security is stabilized in the country. The little money that comes in is used to facilitate the peace talks, all those things. So more money, much of the money is put into stabilizing the country more than seeing some of the things like education, health. They are paid less attention. And that's why I was so interested in writing this book, so that when we get peace, all those other challenges can be dealt with.
Okay, but your country has resources, for example, oil. When I was reading somewhere, you guys have oil, but has it served the purpose?
For now, we cannot say that has served the purpose because we've not been stable. And I don't think even that money that comes from oil has been used in the right way. When you go to South Sudan, you will find that most the people in the government are rich and people in the community are in a very desperate situation. So I don't think it's been used in the right way. But the government has assured the citizens that when we attain peace, we will have proper implementation of making sure that this money is able to reach different people.
Okay, it's alleged that in South Sudan, the Dinkas feel that, oh, this country is ours. We are the ones to make these decisions on deciding who is supposed to enter the country and who is supposed to leave. How is that?
I don't think, some of those things are not true. For me, I'm someone who really tells the truth as it is, no matter who I'm speaking to or where I come from. The challenge that we have in South Sudan is that the Dinkas are the majority. We are about 31% of the population.
In the country?
Yes, in the country. And that makes Dinkas to be seen in almost every part. So somebody who is not so much into the history or into the statistics of how these people are very many will think that the Dinkas are the ones that are in every position. But again, it depends on how people are. And, you know, during the liberation wars, no one complained that the Dinkas are so many in the army. And that is one thing we also have to consider. But I'm not saying that they shouldn't speak out the challenges that they are having. It is very good to speak about the things, but about Dinkas deciding who to leave the country and who should come in is not true.
Okay.
And in the government, we also have people from other tribes. We have people
but
from
there are fewer.
We have people from Equatoria, and we have people from different parts. Yeah.
Okay. Also, now let's talk about the book.
Okay, a little interruption before you talk about the book. You talked. She asked about knowing and letting know, giving the decision on who should leave, who should come, that kind of thing. You have actually had conflicts with Uganda. Yeah, the economic conflicts. You have the border. You have people who are being killed on the border who are trying to supply goods to South Sudan. Has also that been because of the conflicts, or is just South Sudan wanting to do everything by themselves?
I think I will first thank you for bringing this question into light. And there are so many things that have been happening in South Sudan which are reported in a very different way in Uganda. There was a time I read, I think, the Monitor and the Vision saying that Ugandan nationals are killed in South Sudan, which is not true on the highways. But you'll realize that in a country that is facing conflicts, there is no one that is looked at. As we talk now, South Sudanese are even, some of them are attacked on the highways and they die. The problem is that these rebels hide in the bush. They ambush different vehicles that are coming. So they do not have computers that say that now this car coming is having Ugandans and let's kill them. You just fall into the ambush and you're killed. And a few months back we had 2 sisters from South Sudan that were devoted to the service of God in the Catholic Church, and they were killed in the same way. And recently we had a picture that so much pains my heart, because it's someone that was attacked on the highway, and some people had to pin 2 nails on his head. 2 nails. So you can imagine that kind of impunity that has really affected people that I don't even know how to call it. But I think I did not sleep for the whole night. How do a normal human being bring another human being in front of him and put nails on his head? Not even Jesus felt that. Yes, he was hung on the nails, but the hands were used. At least those people were somehow having the heart of humanity. But this extent of pinning a nail on somebody's head, so I think the issues that Ugandans face there are not only for the Ugandans, even as ourselves go through such, and it is because of the conflicts that we are having.
Do you believe that Uganda has played a role in helping South Sudan as a country, economically, politically, socially, and all that?
Yeah, I think, yes, Uganda has done its part. It has helped the South Sudanese so much. Like we have the refugees here. Yeah, so Uganda has played a role in helping us. Yeah, but again, there are certain roles that are played with interest. I think you have to understand that.
Like
yes. What? People can be in the refugee camps, and I've gone everywhere in Uganda. Most places I have visited are Western Uganda, Eastern Uganda. I've been in the north, and I'm here in the central. And one thing you find Ugandans boasting about is hosting the South Sudanese refugees. But again, hosting the South Sudanese refugees come with a certain interest at some point. Yeah, you will find someone interested in hosting the refugees, but the refugees do not come here free of charge. There is a lot of employment that it brings into the country. Yes, the United Nations is also able to support the country that is hosting the refugees. So Uganda has played its role, and at the same time, I think benefiting as well. Okay. So we do not have to say that this is a charity work. South Sudanese.
But you know, taking the decision of hosting that number of people is being considerate enough to know that this is my neighbor. We are the same people, and we need to all live in dignity. So I want to feel like, as much as their interests, this, you know, the humanitarian part supersedes.
Yeah, I'm not against that. I was just bringing that one as a by the way, but the major point is that Uganda has played a major role. Yes, and we will always remain as friends, as neighbors. There's nothing that will ever take away that history.
Okay, let's talk about the woman of Kush.
What is Kush?
What is Kush?
Okay, Kush is the Asian kingdom. And Kush is where civilization began. So when we talk about Kush, it starts all the way from Egypt, come to Sudan, some parts of Ethiopia, and some parts of Uganda. That was way before colonization began. Yes, so when we talk about Kush, Kush was the name of Sudanese, or the South Sudanese. We are actually the main Sudanese, because when the Arabs came, they called us Sudanese because of the skin color. We are black, and that's what it means.
Sudanese, yes. Because of your color.
Yes.
So Sudanese means black or something?
Yes, we are the black people. And again, when you look at Kush were also black people. Yes, they are the one that ruled the ancient Egypt.
So in short, civilization began from Sudan.
Yes, that is where it began.
That is
and I think that's why we are the darkest people on the planet. It's where it began.
Okay, well, in number, you might be more by also, you know, dark people in Uganda who are going to be like, oh.
But we must consider the fact that some people in Uganda migrated from Sudan or South Sudan currently. Yes.
Okay, so what really compelled you to get that title, the woman of Kush, my country in peace, in war and peace?
When I talk, as I told you, that Kush is the Asian name of Sudan, and the regions around it. Then my country in war and peace is simply meaning the challenges that we are having. How do we transition from war to peace? Or maybe the challenges we can be seen in peace today, then tomorrow we are in wars. today we are in peace, and that is why I had to come up with the title.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I sorry for interrupting. I want to believe that you have suggestions on how to transition from war to peace. And if you could highlight a little of those, at least in the book, for someone to know that if I'm going to buy that book, this is what I should expect. This is how we probably can, she addresses how we can transition from war to peace, how women, especially because you talk about women, how women can participate meaningfully in this transition from war to peace. Yeah, just a highlight on that.
Okay. When I first thought about this title, I was thinking about a woman that will look at the future of South Sudan as a real responsibility to play. And this is why I had to come up with the woman of Kush, that particular woman who has to sit down and say, this is where I want South Sudan to go, this is the future that I want, and train a child in a way that will make the country to go far. A child that will grow up one day and play major roles without her planting any seed of corruption into that child. Yes.
So you also have this notion, this common notion of charity is coming from the woman.
Yes, it is very true.
You are the one who nurtures children.
Yes.
Oh, that's a good notion. So basically the book talks about how a woman can nurture a country, because we want to believe this common saying, the next generation, the future belongs to the young people. So you are trying to nurture the young people.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's a good one. I also wanted to ask about in your country, not the book specifically. In the country, how is the freedom of expression, being upheld?
Freedom of expression is not that much. As a country that is transitioning from war to peace, there are certain things you don't just speak out. Yeah, so I think with time it will be dealt with. But at the moment, there are so many people that are facing challenges because of not speaking.
How is the literacy rate in your country?
I think it is not that much, but I think we should focus on the book. Which is the
We are going,
topic,
that is why I'm asking the
yeah.
literacy rate, because for some people who are not able to read, how can they get to know about the book?
In the country or here?
In your country.
Okay, in my country, I have future plans of translating this book into the different local languages. And I'm also planning to host different conferences with women from different parts of the country where we can have the women sit together and I explain to them what this book is all about.
Okay.
And that will make it easier for the women to pick what is in this book.
So what are some of the chapters in the book?
In this book, I have about 9 chapters. Yes, the first chapter talks about the South Sudanese women. It's also where I have the brief history of the ancient Kush kingdom. And I have explained about it for people to know, those who do not know who we are. They will now read and say, okay, these are the people, these are the strong people, where the civilization began, all these things will come in. The second chapter is talking about how a girl child is raised up. We are brought up in a way to think that our main role that we need to play as girls is to become women in the future.
Housewives.
Yes, housewives. And because of that, I had to analyze to bring out different ways so that people can understand. It is actually one of the most important things that women can use to bring about peace. Because when a young girl is trained to become a woman, there are things that you are taught to know. And when we use some of those things, they can practically bring about peace. So I did not talk about it in a way to bring out the negativity, but to also bring the good part of it.
And the way forward for it?
Yes.
Okay.
And the third chapter talks about girl-child education. For a country to be liberated, I think the women need to be taught.
They need to be educated.
Yes, they need to be educated. And here I'm not just talking about English. Most Africans have been confused to think that when you teach your girls in English, that is when they are educated. But education is in different forms. Our great-grandfathers, they lived here in Africa, And they were great people. They had peace in their communities. So do we think they were not educated? The education was in a different form. So that is the third chapter. The fourth chapter is about, how can I forget? Let me check it out. Yes, the fourth chapter is talking about girl-child marriages in South Sudan. How do we bring these marriages low? How do we stop the young girls from getting married when they are young? Because when you're a very young girl, a child cannot raise another child. That is one thing we must consider. A child needs to be raised by somebody who has grown up, somebody who knows the essence of teaching a child peace. And those things can only be conceived by a mature person. So it's why I brought it in. And to also reduce the cases of child marriages in South Sudan. The fifth chapter is the role of is the woman and the family. How is a woman connected to the family? What are her roles in the family?
What role does she play when it comes to the family? Okay.
Then the sixth chapter is about life as a refugee. We have to tackle issues of refugees because we have to expose the challenges that refugees are facing.
Do they have positive and negative effects, or they're only negative ones?
We have few positive ones. Yeah, but
you also wrote them?
Yes.
Okay.
And then we have peace, our prayer and desire. When you meet every South Sudanese right now, their conversation is all about how do we get peace? How can we get back to our country? The eighth chapter is about the women and liberation struggles of South Sudan. The ninth chapter, which is the last, is becoming a woman of influence. How do we influence the society, the men in South Sudan, the children, everyone, the youth? How do the women of South Sudan, how do they play their role to make sure that these people come together and work together as a country?
In this book, did you write about men at any point, or at even if it's a small point?
Yes, of course. Women cannot be women without men.
Okay.
And that's why our fathers are men. Yes, they are not women.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point. Women can, I want to say it again, women cannot be women without men.
Of course, men can't be men without women.
Yes,
that's the same thing. Okay.
Yes, it is.
It begins the other way. So, as women, I want to see their contribution to the national development. Because in the book, as you read all the chapters as they are, I don't remember hearing anything to do about women emancipation. We are in the generation where women are being empowered to, to stand up, equally participate like men. But in your book, it seems you try to say that women should be in the home.
No, that is not the case. I think you heard me wrongly. Or maybe you haven't got the whole thing. What I was reading to you were the chapters. Those are the titles of the different chapters I have written. But in the chapters down there are also subtopics that I have written about, and it is where we can get into the details. What I read were just the main chapters that I wrote in the book.
Okay. So there is also ways of emancipating women, making sure that they participate in politics. Do they participate in politics, women in South Sudan?
Yes, there are some women right now that are very active in the country.
Okay. And they are given freely the space that they are occupying, or it's a fight, you're a woman, someone is looking at you and saying, I can't be led by a woman, that kind of thing.
It also depends on the people we are dealing with. When you go deep in the villages, they say, what can a woman do? All those questions are always raised. But our leadership have also seen the role that women can play. For example, recently our president appointed the Speaker of Parliament, who happens to be a woman.
Okay.
She's actually one of those people that is very happy about what I have written here, and I'm looking at inviting her to be one of the people that will take part in the launch of the book. So she's currently the Speaker of the Transitional National Assembly. And we also have one of the Vice Presidents, who is a woman, the late wife to Dr. John Garang. Yeah, she's one of them. We have women that are participating.
But now there is also this other problem whereby you're given the position, but you're not given the power.
Yeah.
To do what?
to make certain decisions. For example, if you're the Speaker of Parliament, you're just the Speaker, you're just given that title as the Speaker, but then you don't have the power to make certain decisions because you're a woman.
No, it's not happening. I think by the time you are appointed into that office, our people, one thing people need to know about South Sudanese is that they are people that are very honest. And by the time the president made his mind to put that woman into the position, I think she deserved it. And she's a woman who is doing a lot in the country, so she cannot be restricted into doing certain things. But however, as a country that is in transition, we cannot also overrush things to happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't you think that you also need to talk to the men, because it's believed that they are perpetrators of all, of most of the things that are happening to women, the early pregnancies, most of the things that you've mentioned in the book?
I think by the time men get to read this book, they will find out their roles. Because I have highlighted the importances of having girls go to school, the disadvantages of forcing girls to get married early, the challenges that it brings to the entire society. Because as a woman that gives birth to a child when we are still not mature, it is hard to raise that child, and it is hard to nurture this child in a way that will take the country forward. So those are some of the things, and when men get to know, they will say that, yes, this is actually true. Because when a woman who is mature enough raises a child, there are certain things that she will teach a child to take as most important things. For example, when I was growing up, my mother kept telling me one thing, that as a South Sudanese, we are one. That's one thing that has always remained in my mind. She told me we are the same people, we are having the same fight to have our own country. And I think she began telling me that at the age of 4, if I can remember. And that has grown up with me. I have felt that every South Sudanese belongs to me. And that's why even during the COVID-19 lockdown of last year, I had to mobilize food, I had to mobilize jerry cans that were taken to the different refugee camps. I did not look at refugee camps as maybe where I come from or where my people, where what I did, the jerry cans were raised, then they were distributed in different camps that are having Nuer, they are having Dinkas, the Equatorians, different tribes. So that comes with a woman being mature enough to raise a child. And there's also another woman that will tell a child that such people are your enemies, the Nuer are your enemies, or maybe these tribes are your enemies. So when a child begins to grow up with that mind, saying that these people are my enemies, these people do not love us, these people
are fighting us,
that child will grow up with that kind of mentality. And by the time they grow up, you will see a child very hostile, looking at others as people that do not belong to his community, and that's where conflicts begin from. That's why I talked about the influence of a woman in a community, because a woman has a lot in bringing up a child that can either lead a country or take the country backwards.
Okay. Do you have certain people that you could mention that have helped you in writing this book or in composing each and everything that is in this book?
Mostly I did the writing by myself.
Hello.
There's a call. Hello.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. How are you, sir?
Thank you for hosting that lady.
Yeah. Your name, please?
John Bosco Obote.
Okay. Yes, Mr. John.
Yes, I just need to ask Madam Ajah, what are they doing, most especially the elite, to see that people from Wow, El Bragazan, Lumbe, are on the same page with the people of Juba? Because it seems those far places are deserted and they are concentrating more of the city in Juba, but Wow, Lumbe, El Bragazan are deserted. What are they doing to see that they move on the same page? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. John Bosco. Yes, a very wonderful question. Have you had it, or I can repeat?
I had
okay.
It. Okay, at the moment, the security of the country is not okay. And that's why most people are in Juba. It's not that people choose to be in Juba. Juba is actually one of the cities. There are also other cities in South Sudan. But people have not lived there because we have a lot of insecurity issues. Traveling from Juba to other cities is a little bit hard, and that's why even now in South Sudan, most people use flights to go to different places in the country. So by the time that the security of the country becomes okay, people will get back to different parts of the country where they can go about with their lives.
But has the government considered the other parts, like you mentioned, the Yumbe, because he said that they are only looking at the people in Juba?
As I told you, I think one thing you need to understand is that we are having conflicts in the country. And you cannot, even at home, you cannot find a family that is having fights and at the same time dealing with other things. You will find people first coming together to sort out that issue. So the most important thing that we are tackling right now is the issue of the conflicts. When we get done with them, we will go back and say, let's do all these other things. The government even has a plan of building another city. It's called Ramchel. Ramchel is a word in Dinka that means meeting in the middle. Yes, so it is in the middle. Point. Yes, a meeting point of South Sudan, like is it Nakasongola? I had it some time back that Nakasongola district is somehow almost in the middle of the country. Is it true?
Yeah,
it's true, eh? You are not even sure of your own history.
You were saying about concentrating on Juba. It is also, I think part of the conflict is that those tribes who are probably in the other cities, as you mentioned, are probably fighting because they feel they have not been considered. So until that is being addressed, because if it's part of the problem, part of addressing the conflict is making everyone come on the table, making sure that everyone is being represented. So is there plans of including, like he asked, of including those people to put them together? Because maybe that way the conflict could end.
Yeah, by the time we have peace talks do not take only major tribes and say, we are the Dinka, we are the Nuer, let's sit down. The peace talks that have been organized in South Sudan have people from different places. And that's why even we have the Speaker of Parliament who comes from a different tribe. She comes from, I think, Azande. Yes, that is western part, western part of South Sudan. So we do not have to say that these people are not considered. Yeah, most of them are considered, and they are working now in the country. But they are such as those small organizations or different people in different groups that are looking at in stabilizing the country. When you realize that your needs are not met, you go to the bush and start fighting. But that's not the way we should go about with things. Yes, we have to come to a point of saying that, okay, if I am not considered, or if I am not appointed, that should not be a way.
There is a call. Hello, the Mighty Drive.
Yes, please.
Yes, you're speaking to John Paul.
Yes, Paul.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes, please.
Yes, hello, madam.
Yes, Good morning, Paul. Please ask your question.
Hello?
We can hear you, Mr. Paul.
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, so I'm calling from South Sudan. I'm watching the TV show.
Yes, Mr. Paul.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yes, and I would like to ask, Madam Ajah something. Yeah?
Yes, please go ahead. That's the question.
Yes, hello.
Please go ahead, Mr. Paul. You can ask the question. She's listening.
Okay, thank you. I was just asking Madam Ajah, where does you see South Sudan in 2 years from now? You have a wonderful book, nice title, and I don't want to know where to see South Sudan in 2 years from now.
Thank you so much, Mr. Paul. I think he was just appreciating that you wrote a good book, and then it has a wonderful title.
Okay, thank you, Paul.
So you are still telling us about the people who helped you to compose or write this book.
Okay, when I began this book, I didn't know how long I was going to take. But one day I approached the deputy principal, the College of Humanities at KIU. I told him that, Dr. Charles, this is what I have, this is what I'm planning to do. And
I want to write about this and this
I
and
want to
this.
write. So he gave me a go ahead. He said, what you're doing is very good. And he said, I really want you to continue with it. So that was the end of my communication, and I began writing. So when I finished it, I had Madame Christine Erupia, she's a Ugandan, who helped me in editing the book.
Okay.
We've been sitting all the way from March from March to August. I think that's when we finished the editing of the book. It's been a very hectic work. I'm also having Dr. Aduto. He's an engineer, but also a writer who helped me. He worked in South Sudan for so long.
Okay.
And he had to use his experience to help me in some of the things that he saw in the community and told me, okay, this is true, this is not true, let's go with this. Then I also have Professor Kanyehamba.
Wow. Okay.
Yes, he actually gave me a forward in the writing of this book. He gave me a forward, and he's been supporting me very much. He even paid for the printing of the copies of this book.
Wow.
He asked me, do you have the money? I said, no. Then he said, no, there's no way we can keep this book waiting.
It's really a good one.
He's a good man, and he's also very happy about the book.
Okay.
He even told me that he will be taking some copies. We will buy about 20 copies and send them to the UK to his family members.
Okay. That's really good. So, so far, how many?
Professor Pierre Lumumba.
Oh, wow. Okay. So far, how many copies have you printed?
At the moment, this is just a draft of the book.
Okay.
Yeah. Copies will be printed very soon. I think maybe towards the end of this week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
When are you planning to launch it officially?
The launch, I think, will take place next year, early next year.
Okay.
In January.
Is it going to be in Uganda or in South Sudan?
I think I will have one here and one in South Sudan. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I wanted to ask a question about youths, because I'm not quite conversant with the number of young people in Sudan, youths to be particular. But I wanted to ask, what role are they playing in this whole struggle of making the country come together?
Okay. I think the youth are doing their best to unite the country, but however, there are also youth that have been put into things that they are not supposed to be doing. They are youth that line behind their relatives and say, because he comes from my place, I have to support him, even if his actions are not leading the country anywhere. Yes, that is another challenge that is happening.
Okay. Because when I was trying to make a little bit of research, I realized most of the conflicts have been revenge conflicts that have been based on ethnic groups, and most of them have been actually led by young people. So I don't know, is the country like trying to find a way of putting them on the table as well, informing them that we should be working towards achieving a collective goal of uniting this country?
Yes, the youth at the moment are being considered, and we have one of the vice presidents who deals with the youth and sports.
There is a call.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Good morning.
Hello. You're watching the Mighty Drive.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is William. I wanted to, first of all, thank you for the show. Ajah. Okay. I have a question for her. I want to find out from her her comment on whether the family of Garang is too influential, and which impact does it have to South Sudan. Drawing a line from India, that Bhutto's family and then Gandhi's families, they are influential and impactful in the Indian politics. Is it what is happening in Sudan that can't they do away with Rebecca Garang or Mabior Garang or even the entire family? Must they be part of the politics of South Sudan? In other words, is it a reward that they are giving to the Garang family because the husband or the father in this case did a lot for Sudan, and therefore paying Rebecca with a position of vice presidency is a token. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. William.
I think the question was straight.
Yes.
Is it, when you could address it?
I think the answers that I will be giving are not final. Yes, because there are people up there that are the decision makers. But what I can give is just my view on why they have been appointed. Rebecca Nyandeng, she's the wife of Dr. John. I think you don't know that name. That's what I'm trying to. Yes, she's the wife of the late Dr. John Garang. And this woman, during the liberation struggle, played a major role. She mentored her husband. I think you also know women can mentor their men. And that's why it said when behind a great man or a strong man, there's
a successful man,
yes,
there is a woman behind.
And the other way around.
Yes.
Okay.
So you're focusing a lot on the other way
yes.
around.
Yeah, because we are all contributing.
I think it's because we're the only man here.
You guys are trying to marginalize me.
No, that is not the thing. But I think Rebecca has not been chosen on the fact that she is from Garang's family, but it is that people have seen something in her that can at least transform this community. She played a great role. She supported her husband, and that's why Garang was very successful in handling the affairs of South Sudan. Then on the issue of Mabur is also a very visionary young man. I have seen him doing a lot, much as the conflicts have brought different interests in the country, and people are always fighting on who should be who. But I have seen Mabur is a very intelligent young man, and if his brain is put into consideration and used, at a certain point, he can bring out the best.
Okay.
So I don't think it is on family basis, but also they have that influence because of the late leader.
Their father.
Yeah, but that is not the main thing that people had to look at. Yeah.
Let me pose you this question. Do you have any plans of joining politics in your country?
At the moment, no. Yes, I think those will be future plans, but it's not what I'm looking at right now.
Right now you're looking at grooming the women.
Yes, grooming, not even only the women. My plan is big,
okay,
but I've just started with the women. Yes, from the women I'll have to engage the youth. From engaging the youth, we will be doing other different things.
Any plans for the children, for the young ones?
Yes, I think I'm going to even have a center. I'm looking at creating a center where young children can be put in.
Okay.
Yeah, and train.
Okay. Do you have any plans of training young girls in different schools on how they have to handle themselves, not to go into things to do with sex at a very young age and all that?
Yeah, I'm already been working with the refugee girls in different refugee camps, and most times when I pay visit there, I make sure I visit girls, talk to them, inspire them. And even my former primary school, I've been going there to inspire girls.
Okay.
So the only thing remaining now is maybe for me to start an organization that can be dealing with that. But it is also one of my future plans.
I wanted even to ask you, have you tried to work with different organizations in a way of promoting this book?
Not yet at the moment, though I've been speaking to different leaders of different organizations, and they showed me interest, but I haven't got so much into working with them. I think it's going to be from now that the book is out. Yeah, I can proceed to work with them. But before, there was no way that I would start. I had to first build the idea.
Okay.
Okay. Before I think she reads a comment, I wanted your take. There are some allegations, I don't want to say they are really facts, where the United Nations has had their mission to in South Sudan, and along the way some of them have been arrested, you know, that kind of stuff. Is that true? Is it actually happening?
I think it can happen in every community. When an organization leaves playing its roles and engages in different things that it was not meant to do, it's the main thing that brings out the arrest of people. So maybe in cases where they've been arrested, they might have gone against some of the things the community is not supposed to do. Like from one state, I was hearing that those people, some of the people that were working with the NGO were engaging girls in sex, doing a lot of things, and I think that could be one of the reasons some of them got arrested. Yeah.
Okay, but most of the allegations have been believed to be the national, like the army, attacking. Of course, sometimes it's those youth groups that attack, but other times it has been actually the national army attacking these those who are doing peace missions and restricted their movement.
Okay. I'm not really so sure about that, to say that it is the national army doing this and that, but what I told you earlier, that some people have been arrested because they went beyond what the community wants from them. Yeah, and it's one of the reasons. About the army arresting them, I'm not really certain about it.
Okay. As a youth, there are certain people that want to do or want to be like you or want to do what you're doing, because for now you've managed to write a book, but then they don't have the connections that you have, because you talked about the big people, Professor Lumumba, Professor Kanyehamba, and then other people that you've managed to meet. What advice would you give to them? And then we have also these other ones who have the low self-esteem to express themselves. They are shy.
I think what brings about meeting big people does not start when you have already succeeded. For me, I'm someone who is really good at connectivity. There was a time someone asked me that, would you please teach me how you connect with people? Then I told him, maybe you can organize a conference or organize it, because he told me there were a group of people that were wondering how I was getting to know all these people. And one thing I told him is that it is the vision that draws you to the people that you get to know. I did not get to know Professor Kanyehamba before writing this book. It is the book that got me to know him. I didn't even know Professor Lumumba before. It is the book that made me to know him. The same thing to Dr. Aduto. I met him in somebody's book conference. So the main thing I can tell young people is being active and available. I met Dr. Aduto when I had gone to attend a friend's book launch. So from that book launch, he was one of the key speakers, and because of that, I had to meet him personally. We talked, and that's how we accepted to be part of the editing team of my book. Then I met Professor Kanyehamba during his book launch, and I went with Professor P.L. Lumumba. So young people have to know that you don't have to first get connected to people for you to start something.
For some people, they think that you need to have that or to have a certain amount of money to write a book or to do something.
I don't believe in that. When I began writing this book, I actually began it in a small notebook, almost of this size. That's when I began. Then I went back to Juba, and I told my cousin brother that, you know what, I'm writing a book and I don't have a laptop. So when he heard about it, immediately he gave me money and bought for me a laptop. So you don't need to have money or the connection for you to know people.
What of these other youths who don't have even the support from their families?
Okay, the youth that do not have the support from the families, I don't know if that one is a challenging question.
It's really a challenge, because now for you, you talked to your cousin and you said, I'm writing a book, but then I don't have this and this. And then your cousin was of support, was of hope. For some people, they don't have that, but then they want to do something that you've done.
Yes, another thing the youth have to consider is how you are able to convince people. Yes, you can have a very brilliant idea that can even change Africa in one day, but how do you present it out? Yes, and that could be one of the challenges. Then for the youth that do not really have people that can support them, that is a very challenging question. But I will say that to those that do not have people to support them, maybe they will approach some of us, because soon we are becoming very great, and, and they should come to some of us, or some organizations that can help. But South Sudanese are generous people. Yeah, we live as families. And we are so good at supporting each other.
Okay.
So you cannot, it's hard to find someone that is completely having no one to support unless his people are not willing to do so.
Okay. Actually, for some people, they think that, oh, if you start writing books, my dear, things might turn around, and then we as your family might get affected in one way or the other, because you might write about things that are true, and then they come for you in one way or the other.
Okay.
Yeah, but now how are you planning to reach the ground when you reach in South Sudan? Reaching on the ground and then telling people about what the book is all about, telling them, okay, now you've read the book, so what next?
Okay. As I told you earlier, that I have a very good mobilization strategy. And I think during the book launch, most people will be able to attend and they will get to know about what the book is talking about. And then I'm also planning to have different book tours in different states of the country. We have about 10 states in the country. And if I can visit the major towns, it can be also a good thing. I'm also planning to visit some high schools, primary schools, organize conferences for women, and maybe even men, because men must come into acknowledgement and say that, yes, the women can do this. So
but they need our support.
Yes, they need our support, that's the thing. So that's what I'm planning. And at the moment, I've also reached out to different leaders. I've reached out to the speaker, to one of the vice presidents, to different people, so that they can engage people. And then I've also talked to the Students' Union in Uganda, the South Sudan Student Union, that brings about all university students. And I've even talked to them about engaging them in launching this book. That will be easier for them to speak to different communities where people come from, the leaders come from, and it will be easier to pass out this idea.
Well, it's a good,
that's really good. How does it feel to write a book like that one that has a very, very good impact to the society?
It feels good, but at the same time, the challenges are very many. You know, writing and you're attending lectures, you have
balancing it.
Yes, balancing it has been a hard thing, editing, everything. But what one needs to do is to be persistent about what you want to achieve in life.
And as because time is almost running out, you want to have a message for that young person. You have probably had colleagues that those who are still in the refugee camps. Hope is a little bit shady at the moment. So what message do you give them? That you got here, I came through the refugee camps that you have. But this is where I am meeting the vice president, I'm meeting speakers, I'm meeting all these people. What message do you have for them? Like, for them to be that hopeful?
Okay, I think one thing I have to tell them is to be hopeful. To look into the future and say, this is really what I want to achieve. And in 2019, I had a conference that was held in Arua, and I happened to be one of the people that attended it. So when I went for that conference, I met so many young people that had gone to attend it, and most of them were from the refugee camp. They told me some of their challenges because I was open to them. And I easily approach people. I don't go to a place and I just leave. So when I approach them, they explained to me the challenges that they are facing in the refugee camps, and I told them that I will be working with some few friends where we will come up with an organization to mentor young people. And at the moment, I'm one of the members of a small organization called Dongrin. Dongrin means that leave your name as a mark behind. And yes, and we are working at how we can mentor young people. Most of the people that we'll be tackling are those that are in the different refugee camps. We want to be giving them books. We want to be speaking to them so that we inspire them. Yes, that's what I can say.
Okay.
And to also have hope. That's the main thing that young people need. You have to believe that much as I do not have this and this, let me keep on doing my best, resilience until you reach the main
until
target.
you make it. Yes. Before we close, or before I go into the comments, how has the writing of this book changed you as a human being, the way you see things and the way you address them?
I think I have grown. not just physically, but mentally. Yes, I have really grown. When I began it, there was a way I used to think and see things from a very low point of view. But at the moment, I am able to analyze certain things. My meeting with also big people like Professor Kanyahamba, who has really done a lot in this country, has shaped my way to not only look at the things that are happening now, but even the future. Yes, and it has really made me to grow.
Okay.
Yeah.
As a human being,
I think
as a woman. Let me go. Let me read some comments here. Jeremiah Mchibi is watching. Mutale Farouk says, "Morning, all people on Alternative." Chol Elijah Akol, I'm enjoying what I'm seeing. There is Danny 211. He's also on. Brooke Williams says, "Good morning." Good Ugandans. Pato Yugio Motuawasi says, "Mr. Museveni must be arrested for all the extrajudicial killings and crimes against humanity committed in East and Central Africa." I don't want to put any comment on this, but most people have been appreciating you for being bold and managing to write such a wonderful book. So your closing remarks on the book itself?
Before we go to that, there's someone who has just asked. Sebalamu Ian is saying, "I would like to ask that lady, if she's given a chance to change one thing in South Sudan, what would that be?"
I think bringing peace. I have mentioned it somewhere in my book that if there was an object that contained peace inside, I would put all my efforts into breaking it so that that peace can be released.
Okay.
That's really good.
I think that has been answered.
Yeah. So your closing remarks.
And then as you do closing remarks, you could also say your message to the government of South Sudan and to the people of South Sudan, because the conflict is internal, it's not external, that their countries. So that's a message to all of them, how to get better at that.
And how they will be able to access the book if it's officially out.
Okay, the book will be accessed in different libraries in Uganda, bookshops and libraries in Uganda. Professor Kanyahamba has already written to about 7 institutions, and I think the books will be found there.
Okay.
Then another thing that I can tell the South Sudanese is that let's stop fighting wars that do not belong to us. We are engaged in being used as weapons. The youth are being used by their uncles, their relatives, their friends to fight conflicts that they are not supposed to be fighting. So the best thing that we can do is to get together and say, this is our country, we have done our very best to make sure we reach this far. How do we get together? How do we work together to see this place, this country, a better place? And then to the government, we have to consider the citizens. South Sudanese have suffered for so long. We are found in every part of the world, and it should not be our pride that we are in every part of the world. It should be something that should be making our hearts to bleed and work so hard to make sure the country is in a better state. So the great countries that we see today have been in the same position that we are in right now, but they made a bold step to have peace. So we can also do the same thing. We are capable of doing that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us about in a few lines about the book, if there is anything that that is in the book that we haven't talked about or that we haven't tackled.
Okay, I think we have tackled the main things. And one thing about this book, the main thing that I can summarize is that let women get together and play their role. Let's talk to the men, to the children, to the youth, because here a woman is at the center of everything in a family. When a visitor comes home, he finds a woman. When somebody or a child or a husband, so it is high time we say as women of South Sudan or as girls of South Sudan that enough of everything that we have gone through. It is now high time for us to get together, mentor these people, tell our men that we are tired of the wars that people are engaging in. It is now time for us to get together. Because when you go now at the refugee camps, you find women from Nuer and Dinka working together. So what is that thing that is separating the men? Yet the women, the children are all doing the same thing. Why can't we get together? Why can't we leave behind the conflicts of interest? And so when you're fired, you go home in peace and do other businesses. if you are appointed, you celebrate and continue playing your role. You don't
you
just
celebrate together as women.
Yes, yes, as women, and you do something great for the country.
Okay. What are some of those things you love to do in your free time when you're not writing books or when you're not reading? Yeah.
I love swimming.
Wow.
Yes, I'm a good swimmer, and I love playing. I love playing netball, visiting friends, reading novels.
Which position do you play in netball?
Defend.
Good.
Okay, now I know why this is easy for them. You have been a good a friend and a guest. Thank you so much for making time. And for the young people out there, they have learned one or two things. It's you know, there have been this common saying of you're not too small to make a difference. And you're making that difference even outside your country. I want personally to commend you for that. And I hope that the young people out there can look out and say, I can make a difference in every single way, every small step that you take in the right direction. I think Farida gave us that quote some days back, that every right step you make in the right direction it adds up to something big. So I hope that young people out there have learned one or two things, and maybe those South Sudanese who are in Uganda can join her in the cause, because this country is all of yours and us as the neighbors. So young people should be able to join, and I believe you have learned, I have personally learned one or two things, and I will definitely be, if I can be of use anyway, I'll try to do my best.
Thank you very much. Let me have this book. Yes, Katabondo Kano Kali, The Woman of Kush, My Country in War and Peace. Edanga kawandikidwa omukyala Ajah Tabitha Chol Manyiel. Yes, ke katabo kaneno omukyala akanyonyoddeko byonna byonna ebikalimu kasubire ndowooza ate musobodde okubanga mubitegeera. Nze nkagadde nnyo because kwogera ku mukyala, he talks about the woman. Omukyala ono wa wansi wava wennyini nnyini byayitamu okusoma, obulamu bwayitamu n'okubanga ate alina ettoffaali lyasobola okubanga agatta ku nsi ye. Kyamaanyi nnyo okuba nti ate omukyala ono ajja ate asobodde okubanga atukyalirako n'atubulira bingi nnyo nga bwe mubiwulidde. Ensonga zibadde zoogerera ddala ku bintu byonna nga bwe bitambula. Ayogedde ku nsonga ez'abakyala, ayogedde ku nsonga ez'abaana, kwegana byonna ebigenda mu maaso mu ggwanga erya South Sudan. Akatabo ke kano kagenda kubanga ate kafuluma mu butongole, ojja kusobola okubanga ate ofuna kopi mu buli bookshop mu ggwanga erya Uganda, endowooza ne mu South Sudan kagenda kubanga ate katuuka mu bbanga tono nnyo. Thank you very much for all of you who have been on okuva gye twatandikidde paka wano tugenda okubanga ate tuwunzikira. Thank you very much for the callers. Thank you very much for every one of you who has commented. For those people who have shared, thank you very, very much. In the studios today we had Miss Ajah Tabitha, and I'm going to close it from here today. I've been with Roger Studio Highway, and then on camera we have Miss Anita Musimeta. In the control room, it's the lady herself, Teddy Tenjo. There is Mr. Mukose, and then there is Mr. Jeremiah. I love the fact that women are taking this at a very, very higher stage. You've given us the space, and I really love that. Thank you very much for watching. Tomorrow it's Mulangira Nachibinge on the show. Don't miss. And today in the evening from 5 to 6, it's going to be the Diaspora Link. Mr. Nixon is going to be taking it on, and then they're going to be talking about a lot, so you don't have to miss. See you.
Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.